all the way through this weekend so far. We've been to Paul Ricard, Hockenheim, Spa-Francorchamps, the Red Bull Ring, and last time out a couple of weeks ago at Silverstone. But now you find us here at the home of the Spanish Grand Prix. Good afternoon, everybody. Scott Woodward's here trackside to guide you through all the action. Air temperature is 19 degrees, track temperature 21 degrees, 89% humidity, which means with all these looming clouds overhead, there could yet be more rain here this afternoon. Well, qualifying was another wet affair, but it dried up towards the end. Some very interesting times, an interesting order in the grid, and it means that we do get a Mercedes on pole position, and the championship contenders are back down in fourth on the grid with some work to do from the second row in this first race of the weekend. So, coming into this weekend, it's a clear lead in the championship for Giacomo Altoe and Albert Costa in the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini, but they are scheduled to start in fourth position. And their teammates, Norbert Siedler and Michael Grenier, are on the front row. So there is an Emil Frey car on the front row of the grid, but it's not the championship leaders, and they will be looking to try and gain the advantage as best they can. Meanwhile, the pole sitters, Miguel Ramos and Fabrizio Crestani, the man that set that lap time, that combo hasn't won a race so far this season. They've come second a couple of times, but they haven't actually won a race so far this year. So this could be a good chance for them to potentially pick up that maiden win in GT Open in 2019. You see all the social media at the bottom. You can join the conversation throughout the weekend. Hashtag GT Open and follow the championship on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. So a very packed and populated grid here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. Of course, Barcelona, in the south of Spain. And it's roughly around about half an hour from Barcelona Airport or so. And here's the team that will start on pole position. The SPS Automotive Mercedes with Fabrizio Crestani starting that car with Miguel Ramos alongside him. And they will be looking for their first win of the season in the fastest of what are 10 Mercedes AMGs on the grid. Next to them on the front row is the informed team in the championship. Emil Frey Racing, Norbert Siedler and Michael Grenier, teammates of the championship leaders. What can they do from the front row of the grid this time by? Can they take advantage of some of the faster cars starting right behind them? And that will be Norbert Siedler starting that car. As the grid continues to populate, and the weather is just about holding off, but it is going to be wet. Here's the car we're waiting for to line up in third position. It will be Darren Turner who will start this car. The Aston Martin Works driver, he shares that car with Ollie Wilkinson, who, I should correct myself, was crowned the Silver Cup British GT champion, not the Pro-Am champions that I mentioned back at Silverstone. So forgive me for that. But Silver Cup champions along with Bradley Ellis, and this car has come just fresh from the season finale of British GT at Donington Park. So good to see it back out in action once again. Here's your championship leaders. Giacomo Altoe, sort of smiling for a selfie, I think, and he's having a chat to the man who will take over his car in the first half of the race, to Giacomo Altoe, who will take over that car in the first stint of this race, and looking to try and make some progress from the second row of the grid. On to row 3, and this is the Enrique Chavez and this man, Martin Kodrich, who will start the leading Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren, car number 59. And incredibly, on the third row of the grid alongside them is this car. A welcome to the championship for Denis Romanenko and Fabian Schiller. Schiller will start that car from 6th position, and the Russian and the German driver for the Get Speed Performance Squad, one of their few appearances in the championship. And they bring not one but 2 cars. That car making its debut this weekend. 7th place on the grid is the second place Pro-Am car with Fabian Schiller on pole for that class. Thomas Tuchler sharing that car with Frederick Schandorf. That's the sole Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini Huracan, who starts on the 4th row of the grid. Alongside them is a team that's had a very impressive debut since they started at the Red Bull Ring. There's Bajtskevisa on the right, and the driver who starts her car is Richard Gonda, the Slovakian, in the Senkia Motorsport BMW M6 GT3. So they'll be looking for a good result from the 4th row. Looking back to row 5, and we will see the second of our Teo Martin Motorsport McLarens. There it is. Fran Moreda starts that car. Andres Sarabia will be taking that one over in the second half of the race once the pit stops are in earnest. And alongside them on the 5th row of the grid is going to be an impressive performance so far from the Lazarus Racing Lamborghini with former Ferrari Challenge star and also Blancpain GT racer Ezequiel Perez Companc, who lines up in that car, and he will start that car with Eliseo Martinez, the regular driver, taking over from him later on in the race. 11th place on the grid, another impressive result for the leading Raton Racing by Target Lamborghini. This is Jiatong Liang who will start this car, and Raffaele Giammaria will take it over from him in the pit stops, just calmly and quietly waiting for the start of the race there with eyes closed. And so before we get to the race, here's some highlights from the last 2 races at Silverstone. It was a good start for the championship leaders, Albert Costa and Giacomo Altoe. But in the mid-pack, trouble already. The Spirit of Race Ferrari tagged the Marcelo Hahn and Alan Coder McLaren, it hit once and then twice into the barriers at Magnus and Beckett's in the way. Went more trouble further around the lap as the Ollie Wilkinson Optimum Motorsport Aston Martin clipped the Vincenzo Spiri Lamborghini, and the Federico and Najim Razak car was also in trouble. Round the outside of the Vincenzo Spiri Lamborghini went Tom Onslow Cole. But whilst that was happening, it was a 1-2 for Emil Frey Racing, with Albert Costa and Giacomo Altoe picking up another victory. And they took the top step of the podium with their teammates in second and Cristani and Ramos third. For the start of race 2, it was an Emil Frey 1-2 with Cristani in third position. Wheel to wheel between the two McLarens into Copse Corner. But there was plenty of battling going on. There was a bit of an argy-bargy going on between two Mercedes, as that was Thomas Leclerc barging someone out of the way. There was Spirit of Race Ferrari battling away with the Vincenzo Spiri Racing Lamborghini as they went toe-to-toe. And this was the crucial moment on the last lap. Ramos tagged the back of Kodrich. Kodrich attacked Ollie Wilkinson, and both cars went around and they were penalised for that. And even though Andres Sarabia won on the road, a 1-second penalty for a second too-short pit stop meant it was a double victory for Albert Costa and Giacomo Altoe, with the championship lead heading into the last 2 rounds. So I can hear the engines being fired up below me. The grid is being cleared, which means we are moments away from getting the field underway for this first race. We're all set to get ready then for this first race of the weekend in slightly wet conditions, race 1 of the Barcelona round of International GT Open. So Fabrizio Crestani on pole for Mercedes, Norbert Siedler alongside him on the front row of the grid for Lamborghini, Darren Turner in the Aston Martin, and champion leader Giacomo Altoe on row 2 in the Lamborghini. Martin Kodrich in the McLaren, Fabian Schiller 6th on their debut on the grid, Thomas Tuchel in Lamborghini, Richard Gondit in the Senkia Motorsport BMW on row 4. Fran Moreda in the McLaren, Ezequiel Perez Compang in the Lamborghini rounds out the top 10. Then to 11th place, Jaiton Liang in the Raton Racing Lamborghini, Riccardo Agostini in the Antonelli Motorsport Aston Martin. Najee Razak starts the Ombra Racing Lamborghini. Welcome back the Olymp Racing Audi with Martin Jedlinski at the wheel. Valentin Pierberg starts the second SPS Motorsport car he'll share with Tom Onslow Cole. Russell Ward and Indy Donche are back on 16th on the grid. Marcelo Han, Alain Cordair back in action after their excellent Silverstone. Christophe Lenz with Franck Pereira. Then Giuseppe Cipriani, and a welcome to the Boots and Guignon Racing with Claude-Yves Gosselin, and then Janine Hill also in the second Get Speed car, and Marcio Basso, he and Guillaume Salas at the wheel of their car, as they would normally share in the GT Cup Open. And then Stanislav Jeslinski is also on the grid as well. I think we're possibly missing one car that's not here, because we should have 24 cars that did the qualifying this morning, but we're missing one car on the grid. And I'm just trying to work out on the order here who it might be that we're missing. Looking down the order for a second, I think we are missing... Who are we missing on the grid? We're missing the Alexander Hlakavina and Martin Conrad Mercedes. That's not on the grid. It should have started from 16th on the grid, but it's not there. So, unfortunately, this is the onboard shot from Valentin Pierberg, sharing with Tom Onslow Colt. Now, you can see it's been declared a wet race, but in what has been a very topsy-turvy day for weather, it's been pouring down with rain, then drier, then pouring down with rain again just before the start of the GT Cup Open race. It was wet for the Euro Formula Open race. It is now starting to dry out somewhat even more here for the start of the International GT Open race. Everyone will start on the intermediate tyres, but of course they'll have to change the slicks if it keeps on getting drier. And coming into this weekend, looking at the championship standings, it is the lead for Giacomo Altoe and Albert Costa with 100 points compared to Enrique Chavez and Martin Kodrich on 83. Fran Nereda and Andres Saravia are third with 78, and they've got a point advantage over the second Emil Frey car of Michael Grenier and Norbert Siedler. And as for Fabrizio Crestani and Miguel Ramos, as we said, they haven't won a race so far this season. The closest they came was in the first race at Spa, where they picked up second place, and they took a third place and a fifth last time out. They've got 3 thirds to their name this season, once at Paul Ricard, once at the Red Bull Ring, and once in the first race at Silverstone. So we're looking to make improvements. Watch for that car in the early stages. Ezequiel Perez Compang, he was a former Ferrari Challenge star, and of course was raced in Blancpain before. But as the Nissan Duke safety car leads the field around in 2x2 formation, it's a 70-minute race, and the driver change will start after 28 minutes of the race gone so far. And there'll be a particular pit window which they'll have to make driver changes, and their second named driver will be in the car. So the field led around in the chicane for the final few moments before the start of this race. Fabrizio Crestani on pole, Norbert Siedler alongside him on the front row. What can Darren Turner do from the second row of the grid? Also watch for the championship leaders, Giacomo Altoe, and also keep an eye on both Martin Kodrich and Fabian Schiller Safety car peels in, and race 1 of round number 6 of the 2019 International GT Open Championship for the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya is all set to get underway. Watch for the red lights top of the screen. Crestani on pole, Seidler alongside him on the front row. Who can get the jump down towards turn 1? The lights go green, and race 1 is underway. They rumble away down the pit straight. It's a long drag down towards turn 1. Who's got the guts? Who's got the horsepower? Down towards the sprint into the first couple of corners. The amount of spray these guys have got to contend with is a lot as they come down under the braking zone. And it is going to be Crestani who turns into turn 1, who leading the way. See them in second place. It's contact already. Rogo's one of the Emil Race Lamborghini. Several cars go off onto the runoff area. I think that was the number 14 car of Norbert Seidler. I'm sure it was. Off on the road, one of many cars went off onto the escape area. Goes the Ezekiel Perez compact car. And it was indeed Norbert Seidler who got turned around. I think it was maybe by the Darren Turner, that Aston Martin. I think we'll see a replay of that shortly. But Giacomo Altoi's down to the lead of the race. It's now Schiller up to second place. There's more contact. That is Fran Moreda tagging the back of Thomas Tuchel, who's facing the wrong way at the turn 4 Repsol corner. Gets back into the race. And Fabian Schiller's attacking for the lead. Off the road goes Martin Kodrich. Kodrich is off the road into the second of Matteo Martin Motorsport McLaren's. It is all action. There's 2 cars off in the gravel up at Repsol corner. It is side by side for third place. Richard Gonda up the Lamborghini. And now round the outside goes Giacomo Alto. But Fabian Schiller is going for it here in second place after a cracking start from 6th on the grid. So halfway through lap 1, it is Alto who leads the way. Schiller and the Mercedes in second place. It's now Richard Gonda in third place. Crestani's trying to fight back in 4th. Darren Turner is 5th. Fran Moreda is 6th. Ezekiel Perez compact is up to 7th. 3 spots from where he started. Here comes Crestani round the outside of Richard Gonda. Can he get through into Bank de Sabadell? Yes, he can. So into third place goes the SPS Automotive car, the car that started on pole position. We're not sure exactly what happened to him because he didn't get caught up, I don't think, in any contact. And as they come through the chicane for the first end of the first lap, with so much happening, I can't talk. So Giacomo Altori leads the way. Schiller in second place. Crestani, then Gonda, then it's Turner, Fran Moreda, and batting the way back through the field is already Norbert Seidler. He's got past Najim Razak in the Ombra Racing Lamborghini. This is the view from Ezekiel Perez compact as they come onto the pit straight for the first time. Past the big grandstand on the left-hand side, which is where our commentary box is situated. And down the pit straight they come. So Altori leads the way then. Schiller in second place. There's still the yellow flag at turn 4. I imagine for where we had 2 cars off in the gravel trap. One of them was the Olymp Racing Audi R8, sadly. The other car possibly might be one of the Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes. And I think it was Giuseppe Cipriani, I think. So the car that went off was sadly Martin Jedlinski. So that car's out of the race, sadly. As now Darren Turner monsters the back of Richard Gonda's BMW up through Renault Corner. And it looks pretty dry at turn 3 and 4, but Fabian Schiller tries to get back through. Darren Turner diving up the inside of Gonda into Repsol Corner as both Fran Moreda and Ezekiel Perez come and watch on. There's the car that's in the gravel trap. That is Martin Jedlinski in the Olymp Racing Audi R8. Whether it's out of the race or not remains to be seen if he's still sat at the wheel. And going wide into turn 5, deep into the corner goes Darren Turner. Up the inside for 6th looks to be Ezekiel Perez compact using his experience. And here's the onboard shot. There is the McLaren right in front of him. Fran Moreda holding on to 6th. But the Lazarus Racing car trying to get through. As now you can see Richard Gonda under all sorts of pressure for 4th position from Darren Turner as they head up towards Campsa Corner, and the safety car has been deployed. So the Olymp Racing Audi must be in a dangerous enough position that it requires more than just an active snatch. It needs the safety car to come out. And I think it gives us a chance to breathe and just take stock of exactly what happened in those first few corners, because there was so much going on. It all started when Norbert Seidler got tagged, by the looks of things, by the Darren Turner Optum Aston Martin. Several cars went off the road in avoidance. And then something happened further on around the lap, which saw Giacomo Altoe get ahead of Fabrizio Costani. Here we go, so into turn 1. Now, who was it that tagged who? Yes, it was. So both the Emil Frey cars ran wide, and it was the Darren Turner car that tagged him. There's a bit of bodywork coming up, I think, from the Ombra Racing Lamborghini. So see, they're rejoined. This is further round where we saw Fran Moreda tag. That was Thomas Tuchel, and that 66 Lamborghini went around. Thankfully, he didn't get it stuck in the gravel trap. This is the view from Ezekiel Perez compact. He was watching on right behind that incident, so he got a bird's eye view of that. As he tucked in behind. This is what happened further around. This is how Martin Kodrich went off, just understeered off wide. Back of the car went loose, and it just ran off into the gravel trap, and he's got back on the road, but he's back in 16th place under the safety car now, so he managed to track his way through the gravel, which is slightly more compacted. Another car that went off there looks like that was Giuseppe Cipriani, who went off with him in sympathy as he came back onto the road. So now we're on the safety car. It's quite interesting, because what's also interesting is Giacomo Altoe carried quite a bit of speed off of the runoff area, because we didn't actually see the move where he got past Fabrizio Crestani. So I wonder if I don't want to speculate too much, but he did carry quite a lot of speed maybe off that runoff area, as maybe did Fabian Schiller, because both of those front two cars, from what I saw, did have to go off onto the runoff area on the inside of the track, on that runoff piece of tarmac, as did other cars to try and avoid the incident. And that's the reason on the right-hand side for the safety car, it's the Olymp Racing Audi R8 that got dumped into the gravel. Whether or not it was by its own doing, or whether or not it got helped, i.e. did they jump or were they pushed, I don't think we quite saw that, unfortunately, but it was quite a tense opening few corners. And all it takes is just a sprinkling of rain to throw the script of the race completely out of the window, but we will get some good fighting up through the field now from the likes of Martin Kodrich and indeed Norbert Siedler, who after his initial spin was already up to 10th position by the safety car when it came out. So we're on the third lap of racing, but we're under the safety car. I remember the pit window will open in 22 minutes, so when that clock hits 42 minutes to go, we will get the pit window open, of course, and everyone can change over to their allocated second driver. And there is Janine Hill in the number 11 Get Speed performance car. The other car of the team, of course, is up there in second place, the silver Mercedes of Fabian Schiller. And of course, he will hand over to Denis Remenyenko, the Russian driver in the pit lane, when the pit stops get underway. But Giacomo Toei, away from the cameras, seemed to find a way past Fabrizio Crestani. Here's the replay again, and look, both of the all the top three seem to run wide. Siedler tries to cut back across, but into the path of Darren Turner. Watch, the two cars on the right-hand side and the Richard Gonda BMW all took to the runoff area, and I wonder if it was a slightly grippier part of the circuit. Here's a good shot here from Ezequiel Perez Compact. Now that's interesting, because look, both Giacomo Toei and Fabian Schiller used the runoff area to come back around the outside to carry more speed off that section of the circuit to go around the outside of Fabrizio Crestani. I wondered how they got past him, so I wondered if maybe the stewards will have to look at that. The incident at turn one's under investigation, I expect, possibly for the contact between Norbert Siedler and Darren Turner. This is the view again further back in the field from what was going on. I think one of the McLarens in there, I think that's the Alan Cadet and Marcelo Han McLaren that we're on board with. And this is further back when we saw Martin Kodrich off the road. Again, just lost the back end of the car, and that oversteer turned into understeer as he slid wide off onto the gravel. And then, as we said, the number 8 Antonelli car of Giuseppe Cipriani just kind of went off in sympathy on the outside line. So I have to be honest, if I give my opinion for a second, that rejoin from both Giacomo Toei and Fabian Schiller, I don't want to say it was too much, it was a little bit too dubious, but they did carry quite a bit of speed using that runoff area back onto the road, and they were at a much better pace, it seemed, than Fabrizio Crestani, and so therefore whether that's could be deemed by the stewards, if they look at that as maybe gaining an advantage off the track. I'm not a steward, so I'm not going to decide whether that is or not, but it did look quite interesting that they used that runoff area, came back onto it, and then found themselves with enough pace to both get by Crestani, who was as struggling into turn one as well as Norbert Siedler was. So we'll wait and see. If there's any investigation on that, we'll wait and see. But rather than discuss it too much more, we'll focus on the here and now. So the order then, after 3 laps, Giacomo Toei leads the way for Emil Frey Racing. They're on course to try and get another victory towards their championship chances. Fabian Schiller holds on to second place in what's been a fantastic opening few laps for their debut race in the championship so far. Third place for Fabrizio Crestani. Fourth for Richard Gonda. That car, ever since it debuted at Red Bull Ring, always seems to find itself in really good position. So it's a really well-sorted car and team Senkia Motorsport. Richard Gonda has been known to put in some good opening stints, and he seems to hand the car over usually to Bajtskevisa in the last 2 meetings. In a really good position that allows her to maintain that and get a good result. Remember back at the Red Bull Ring, they picked up, in their first race in the championship, they picked up a second place after a brilliant opening stint from Richard Gonda, where he stayed out for as long as possible, and he managed to get to put that car into a position where Bajtskevisa exited from their pit stop ahead of both of the Teo Martin McLarens. So a great pit strategy all round from the BMW squad, saw them into second place. Currently fourth, Darren Turner maintaining his place towards the front of the field in 5th position. 6th place, of course, for Fran Rueda. 7th at the moment, impressively, for the Lazarus Racing Lamborghini, Ezequiel Perez Compact at the wheel. And there's the Olymp Racing car, which managed to be digged out of the gravel, and away it goes. And thankfully, as it has been dug out of the gravel, safety car is in this lap. So safety car lights are also off, so which means that what will happen now is, for those who aren't quite sure, as a reminder, now the safety car's lights are off, Giacomo Toei effectively now becomes the safety car. He has to bunch everyone up now, and he has the say on exactly when he restarts this race. Effectively, when he puts his foot down, he can't go on off the throttle and decide to try and bluff the field behind him, because that might cause accidents. So he has to simply, when he decides to go to restart the race, that's it. When he puts his foot down and goes, he can't change his mind, so he has to go when it's suitable to do so. So he'll speed up in a second. Schiller right onto his rear wing, as is Crestani. When's he going to go? As he comes up through the second part of the chicane. And there he goes. He's gone now. So he's put his foot down. Schiller's gone with him on the restart. So it's a good jump so far for Altoa. Schiller will try and get the launch off the final corner to go with him. As they come back onto the pit straight, green flag in the air, and we're back to racing for the International GT Open Race 1 here at Barcelona. So Altoa leads, Schiller second, Crestani third, Gonda fourth. They can't pass till they get across the start and finish line. Once they get past it, then they can start to overtake all they want. But Altoa leads them down to a slightly drier turn 1 now. Schiller second. And there is Lazarus, the Lazarus racing car, under attack from Agostini round the outside. Perez Compact defends. Agostini puts 2 wheels onto the curb, and that will put him under threat from both, well, Zaiton Liang, but also Norbert Seeler, who's trying to get past the Chinese driver in the process. Here's Ezequiel Perez Compact staring at the back of Fran Mereda, and just ahead of them, the battle's on for what looks to be 4th place between Richard Gonda and Darren Turner. Turner going round the outside at Sayat corner, and that's why he's an Aston Martin Works driver. Great move from Darren Turner up to 4th place for the Optimum Motorsport Aston Martin. Now he can start to chase off after the top 3. So into Sayat corner, using the superior grip. And away they go. So, of course, green flags all around the circuit, meaning that the circuit is completely green and free to race. Back with Ezequiel Perez Compact and the Lazarus Racing Lamborghini, looking at the back of the McLaren as the leaders head out through Campsa corner once again for the first time at racing speed. So Altoa in the Lamborghini leads the pair of Mercedes behind him, but now it's Turner up to 4th place. And also a good run so far for this car, number 6, which is the Riccardo Agostini car that he shares with, if I look down the order here, Laura Spinelli, who will take over that car in the second half of the race. And Richard Gonda's already coming under attack from Fran Mereda, who in turn has got Ezequiel Perez Compact closing in. Meanwhile, Norbert Seeler has got past Zaiton Liang, so that's another position made up to 9th place for the Austrian driver. And Zaiton Liang's going to look behind his mirrors because he might lose 10th place in Ajay Razak if the Malaysian driver plays his cards right. Now here's an interesting moment. 5th, 6th and 7th, all stacked up behind each other. BMW versus McLaren versus Lamborghini into the chicane for the first time at racing speeds under green flag once again since the safety car. And the lead 3 is starting to pull away now. The gap between 1st and 2nd is already 0.5 a second. So around about just over half a second now between Altoa and Schiller. Crestani is a further 8/10 back in 3rd position. And Darren Turner's last lap, actually, even though he was overtaking Richard Gonda, was 3/10 quicker than Fabrizio Crestani on that lap. So this could be interesting. Watch for the grey and blue Aston Martin in 4th position. Round the outside of the Lazarus racing car goes Agostini. Great move for 7th place on Ezequiel Perez Compact. So he's not afraid to get stuck in. Here's the view from the Argentinian, dicing away with the Mercedes. So 4 different manufacturers scrapping over positions, 5th down to 8th. And look at Schiller. Fabian Schiller is going for it on the outside line into Repsol corner. And Jacobo Altoa could be under pressure here. As round the outside comes Fabian Schiller, looking for the inside line. We go back to our battle for 5th position. Still Gonda versus Compact. And up the inside into the lead goes Fabian Schiller. The champion leader's down to 2nd place. But Fabian Schiller in the Gatsby Mercedes goes into the lead on lap 6 of this first race of the International GT Open at Barcelona. And that's crucial because that means that they're not the fastest car on the track right now, obviously. But Schiller is into the lead here in their first race in the championship. Incredible stuff. So a great start and a decent run on the safety car to keep with them has certainly played into the hands of Fabian Schiller as the fight for 5th down there. Oh, and that's from nowhere around the outside has come Norbert Seeler. He caught me off guard. That's incredible. Passed him like a video game. Passed both Ezequiel Perez Compact and also Riccardo Agostini. Incredible move. Norbert Seeler takes 2 for the price of 1 and catch them both off guard on the exit of the Verse chicane. He came from absolutely nowhere. Meanwhile, up the inside, Fran Mereda goes up to what looks to be 5th position, so they're overtaking all over the place here in this race, which is great to see. This is the main battle from 5th down to what is now 9th position. There's Seeler trying to sneak a look up the inside for 6th on Richard Gonda. So that order now is Mereda in 5th position, Gonda 6th, Seeler up to 7th, with a great double pass on the exit of the S's. Up the inside again, forces Gonda wide, and that's another place if you don't mind, thank you. Over the curve goes Norbert Seeler, up into 6th position. So his next target is now going to be Fran Mereda, and looks like Gonda's lost 2 spots in the space of 1 lap so far, all in the same part of the circuit. Back with Ezequiel Perez Compact, he is now back in 9th position, looking at the back of Riccardo Agostini, who in turn is closing in on Richard Gonda. The Mercedes have got some poke in a straight line, as team managers 96 and 17 are told to report to race control immediately. So that is Darren Turner and Fran Mereda. I don't remember those 2 coming to contact, if I'm honest. So unless that's for their parts in the 2 separate incidents, because of course Darren Turner's car did tag Norbert Seeler, And Famareda was the car that hit the back of Thomas Tuchel that sent him around. So I think that's for separate incidents, I think. Not collectively on each other, but for their own parts and their own separate instance on the opening lap. So this is the battle now still for, it's now 7th, 8th and 9th, because of course, as we know, Famareda and that man Norbert Seidel have sailed away. But look at the car stacking up behind them though, because we've got Jaiton Liang in 10th position, Najee Razak 11th, and looking now at the inside for 7th place because Riccardo Agostini and the Mercedes has got some good traction on the exit of the corner into the worst chicane. He's on the inside line. Does he dare dive up the inside? Yes, he does. Gonda has to take the outside line. He's got the grip if he can. They rub wheels on the exit. Gonda's over the curb. He bumps over it as he comes up towards the right-hander at the Campster. Can he stick along the inside line? No, he can't. And now he's under threat for not one but two more Lamborghinis, because here comes Ezequiel Perez Compact nibbling away at the bumper of the BMW. And just behind, look at Jaiton Liang with a great drive. It is almost three abreast. It is three abreast down the back straight towards the Lakaisha hairpin. Gonda puts his car in the middle of the road, saying, get past this, boys. Up the inside goes Perez Compact. There's almost contact. Jaiton Liang goes around the outside and says, well, if you're going to cause a roadblock on the inside line, I'll go around the outside if you don't mind. Side by side again, round the outside into Bank de Sabadell. And Ezequiel Perez Compact is through. So that's another place gained. Gonda's now down to 9th place. Up to 8th place now goes Ezequiel Perez Compact. Najee Razak is in there. And look at the second of Matteo Martin McLaren saying, don't forget about me. It's Martin Kodrich recovering through the field. So great battles in the second half of the top 10 all the way through. And the cars behind might be stacking up, because you see behind them, you've got the recovering Thomas Tuchel, who's been passed whilst we're looking at that by Christoph Lenz. I think they're sharing that car, of course, with Thomas Tuchel, or Christoph Lenz has been passed by Thomas Tuchel. So Christoph Lenz and Frank Pereira are the wheel of that car that currently now runs in, looks to be 14th place. So Valentin Pierberg, who shares that car with Tom Onslow Cole, rounds out the top 15. Up the inside into turn 1 goes Najee Razak. Round the outside goes Jaiton Liang. Martin Kodrich says, don't mind if I do. Back into the position he goes. So Kodrich is back into 11th position. And trying to get back up the inside goes the Malaysian, but he can't quite make it stick. And Kodrich holds that better outside line in these damp conditions. Then he goes. Now, then, what's interesting, the gap between the top two, to go back to the leaders, it's now 2.1 seconds, interestingly enough. So that's quite a thing to watch. This is where it all started. So side by side between Agostini and Gonda. Gonda goes over the curves and clips it on the exit as he comes back onto the circuit. This is the view from Compact. He watches on. There they go, side by side. They just rub wheels. A little bit of body contact, but it's fairly fair enough. Compact then looks down the outside into the right-hander at Kamsa. Then they all started to file into one part of the corner together. Compact went over the curve. Jaiton Liang went around the outside. Gonda almost formed a roadblock as he went into Bank de Sabadell, but the big BMW couldn't hold back Compact, who did well to hold the sideline all over the curbs anyway. It's a great onboard shot. And they come back into, it's Najee Razak. So just while we were looking at that, Najee Razak off the road. But whilst that's also going on, again, back to live pictures, and this is Richard Gonda battling with Martin Kodrich. Kodrich has got past not one, but two of them. He's got past Jaiton Liang and past Richard Gonda, who's going, there's no contact, but it's holding on, and that car going off the road. That was Ezequiel Perez Compact off the road. So he has straight line the chicane. He's run wide, but got back onto the circuit. So Compact's still in 11th place. It now puts Kodrich into 9th, Gonda to 10th, Liang is 11th, Tuchel is 12th, and Christoph Lenz is 13th. So much going on, I can't keep up in many cases, but the race will shake itself out, hopefully at one point. It starts to get a little brighter here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. We've got 9 minutes and a quarter until the pit stop window opens. So everything's tentatively settled down for the moment, he says, rather hopefully. As that is Thomas Tuchel recovering after his contact in the first few corners. This is the onboard from Ezequiel Perez Compact. How did he go wide? Just simply understeered off and thought, well, I won't take the chicane, I'll just go straight on to the old Grand Prix circuit. Do a little bollard S's, and away we go. And he sticks behind Riccardo Agostini in the process in 7th place. So here's the battle that's going on. We see Turner, Rueda and Seidler. Then Agostini on his own in 7th place, but being caught by the looks of things by Ezequiel Perez Compact in 8th position. There's Kodrich in 9th and the Teo Martin McLaren. Then the BMW in 10th is Richard Gonda. But for how much longer as he just goes very deep into the corner. A little bit of a lurid slide into Sayat corner. And again, he's under threat from more Lamborghinis. As he comes into Verth, up the inside goes Thomas Tuchel onto the wet part of the circuit. Liang has to give him room. Goes round the outside. Did they touch? Liang goes on the curb. They almost make contact, but Liang has to capitulate. And with a nice clean move up the inside, Jaiton Liang has to lose the position to Thomas Tuchel, who is up to 11th place. And he might crack the top 10 if he can get past Richard Gonda. I think the BMW isn't really enjoying these mixed conditions. It might either prefer all wet or all dry, but the BMW is struggling And the mid-engine cars seem to be enjoying themselves a bit better, because look at this, Gonda cannot find grip or traction anywhere at this point in time in the race, and he's being assaulted from all sides every single lap. Here comes Tugela. When he get up the inside into the chicane, he's going for it. And Gonda can't do anything. He's got no response whatsoever. He tries to go back around the outside, but he has to slot in between the two Lamborghinis, behind Tugela, but still ahead of Jaiton Liang. This now puts him back into 11th place. Tugela into the top 10 now, but he has to try and chase after Martin Kodrich if he can. And here's the replay of what happened before. This is Tugela moving up the inside of Jaiton Liang, and that's how you do it without contact. And again, nice tidy move. Liang over the curves, but he doesn't spin. And here's the replay of Tugela taking 10th place from Richard Gonda a few corners later. And again, nice and smooth. And he's on a good roll so far. It looks as though now Gonda might come under threat for not one but two Raton Racing Lamborghinis. Round the outside goes Jaiton Liang. Gonda fights back as much as he can through turn 2. But the second of those cars, Christoph Lenz, is also coming onto the tail of them. And Jaiton Liang's got to hand his car over to Rafael Maria, whilst Franck Pereira will take over the number 90 car behind them, and that's Christoph Lenz at the wheel right now into turn 4 at Repsol. And still, that BMW does not look comfortable. Just looks a little bit cumbersome in these wet dry conditions. Here is the scrap that's going on between Fran Mereda and the recovering Norbert Seidler. This is over 5th position. There goes Fabrizio Crestani, then Darren Turner in the Aston Martin. And here comes that fight for this position, as yet again the BMW under threat for another Lamborghini. There goes Jaiton Liang up the inside. That's down to 11th place goes Gonda. And it could be 12, although Gonda's getting back at him on the exit, so we might repass him into the right-hander at Kampsa corner. Back to our scrap for 5th between the orange and white McLaren of Fran Mereda, who will hand that car over to Andres Saravia before the end of the race. And Norbert Seidler, who has to make sure that car is ready for Michael Grenier when he comes in for his pit stop. The pit window is open in around about 5 3/4 minutes time. The incident involving cars 96 and 14, that's the turn 1 incident, will be investigated after the race. So if there's going to be any penalties for that, it will be investigated after the conclusion of the race, because of course I think it might be something they have to look into a bit more in depth, which they can't solve during the race, it seems. So the stewards want to have a proper look at that when racing is done. Down the pit straight they go once again. There is Giacomo Altoe, and the gap actually to the leaders is now 4.4 seconds. So Fabian Schiller, welcome to International GT Open, certainly announcing himself pretty quickly by running a fantastic race so far and leading the championship leaders by quite a way, 4.4 seconds. And Crestani's only 1.3 behind Giacomo Altoe at the moment. Darren Turner's a further 1.6 back, so he's in striking distance. There was Fabian Schiller through the bottom of the screen. There is Giacomo Altoe. 3rd place there, the Vodafone-sponsored SPS Automotive Mercedes of Fabrizio Crestani. And there is Darren Turner in the Optima Motorsport Aston Martin. So he's got some bit more pace to find. Roughly another about 4.5 minutes now until we get the pit window open. So when the clock hits 42 minutes, that's when we'll see cars diving in the allotted pit window, and there'll be an element of strategy. Some will decide when to come in, either right at the beginning of the stint to try and get their, what arguably could be their more experienced or faster driver into the car if they choose to do so. They might choose to go right in the middle, maybe towards the end to try and build a bit of a gap. I'll have to wait and see. One thing I can tell you though, looking at the commentary box, you can probably see on the screen, it is brightening up this afternoon here. So after all the rain we've had, there are still some clouds in the air, but it is starting to get a little brighter, and now little wisps of blue cloud and sunshine that are starting to peek through here. So track conditions are starting to improve, and you can see a definitive dry, if not drier, line on the circuit. It might not be completely dry, but it's certainly drier than it was, and it could be potentially a situation where if it does continue to get drier, we will see at the pit stops potentially cars handing over to their second drivers, but also making a switch from wet to dry tyres. Now, whether or not the dry line is completely dry enough to make that switch, we'll have to make and see, but the pit window doesn't open for another 3.5 minutes now, so we'll wait and see what the strategy is. But Fabian Schiller looking very comfortable in these slightly mixed conditions. There is Giacomo Altoe, who might possibly be waiting for the moment to hand over to Albert Costa. And whether or not there's some strategy in hand from Emil Frey Racing, we'll wait and see what they've got up their sleeve. The gap now between Altoe and Crestani actually went out to 2.2 seconds last time by, but the gap between 3rd and 4th between Crestani and this man, Darren Turner, went down to 1.2 seconds, so watch out for that. Here's a replay. This is Martin Kodrich and Ezekiel Perez Companc. What happens here? This is Kodrich just making a nice tidy move around the outside, saying thanks for that, Ezekiel. And here's the view. And round the outside from driver's left goes Martin Kodrich, and Martin just says, bye-bye, Ezekiel, bye-bye. And away he goes. And Ezekiel seems to be struggling on the tyres now because Perez Compact might be coming up Thomas Tuchel as wide goes, that's Riccardo Agostini, who went wide on the exit. So I think, because we're getting to that point in the race now, and also with the weather conditions where, yes, it's maybe might be spitting rain a little bit, or there might still be a bit of spray around, the circuit appears to have dried out substantially. There are still damp patches around and sort of slightly wet patches around as well. But I think as everyone starts on the wet tyres, I think this drier surface is starting to see cars struggle on what seem to be ever increasingly warm and burnt out wet tyres. I think cars are waiting to make the switch to drier tyres at the pit stop window as the fight goes on between Ezekiel Perez Compact and Thomas Tuchel. Lazarus Racing versus Vincenzo Sospiri Racing. And here comes Tuchel down the outside on Perez Compact. Round the outside into the right-hander, through the right-hander at Kampsa, and he's gone through. That's a good move. So up now into 9th place. On a great recovery drive goes Thomas Tuchel. He'll hand over to Frederick Schandorf in the pit stops. And Tuchler's next target is going to be Martin Kodrich, although Tuchler a little wavered into the braking zone there. I think missed the apex a tiny bit, but he holds on to the position. So a good battle between the two Lamborghinis as he turns in through Bank de Sabadell. And there is Perez Compact. Of course, he'll be handing over that car to Eliseo Martinez. And this is a replay here of, that's Najee Razak with a flash of the headlights, diving up the inside of Valentin Pierberg into the L chicane at turns 1 and 2. And this is the view from Valentin here. And he's really sort of got his windscreen wipers on, possibly I think only for spray, if any. But he's looking substantially dry lap by lap. Here comes Norbert Seeler looking for a move up the inside of Fran Mereda into turn 1. He's not far enough alongside though. Less than a minute to go until the pit window opens, so we're getting to the point where pit stops will be all crucial. But you can see, look, there's part of this circuit, for the most part, is definitively pretty dry. So I think it wouldn't be such a brave bet, because I think it makes sense, rather than being a brave bet, a sensible one, to switch to dry tyres when you come into the pit stop. I'd be surprised if anyone doesn't and stays on the intermediates, because I mean, if they stay on there, that's with the hope that it's going to rain again. But looking at the skies, doesn't look all that threatening with rain anymore. It looks as though it is pretty dry out there, and I think everyone's just surviving on these burnt wet tyres. I think they're probably causing even more loss of grip, because of course the tread blocks will be heating up and causing the car to slide around even more, because there is a lack of water on the circuit now, or not as much as there was when the race started. And I think these guys will certainly make that switch to dry tyres when the pit window opens in the next 10 seconds. So there goes Crestani, 3rd place, Turner in 4th, Fran Mereda in 5th. And there's our leaders. Now the gap is 2.9 seconds. That gap actually has come down now in the last couple of laps. It was for some 4 seconds, but it's come down to less than 3 in the last couple of laps. The pit window is now open. So let's see who dives in straight away, if anyone. There's Norbert Seidler back in 6th place. And the Emil Frey Lamborghinis in this round, maybe because of the changeable conditions, don't quite have it their own way here this weekend at Barcelona so far. They struggled a bit in qualifying. It seems as though the other cars around them, particularly some of the Mercedes and McLarens, do have a measure on them in terms of pace and are able to keep with them. And that Aston Martin of Darren Turner and Ollie Wilkerson looks pretty strong as well, so watch out for that too. There it is, 4th place. As they turn through the chicane. Now, is anyone pitting? Top 6 have all carried on, looking out of my commentary box window. Yes, top 6 stay out. Is there a change, anyone from 7th downwards? That would be the Agostini Mercedes. He stays out for 7th place. Martin Kodrich is next down the pit straight as Crestani looks for water. Kodrich stays out, so does Thomas Tuchel, so does Ezekiel Perez Compact, so does Jaiton Liang stays out. Richard Gonda's carried on as well. We're looking now at Fabrizio Crestani ahead of Darren Turner, and then the battle going on between Fran Mereda and Norbert Seidler. Right, first pit calls are in. It looks as if Christoph Lenz is in one of the Raton Racing Lamborghinis, number 90. Behind him is the Marcelo Han Alam Coder car, which we're on board with now in the pit lane. So Marcelo will jump out. Alam Coder will take over from him. So far, they're the only 2 pit calls so far. No one else has come through. Just looking out my commentary box window whilst we look at the TV pictures. There goes the driver change. So as the tyres change on the Teo Martin car, out of the Raton Racing Lamborghini jumps Christoph Lenz. In gets Franck Pereira. As we mentioned, Alam Coder will take over from Marcelo Han in this car as the pit stops go to work. And just pit stops going in earnest. Another car is the pit lane. I think that's one of the... Is that the Indy Donche car? 22. That's the Marcelo Basso and Guillaume Salas car. So that's the two drivers that normally race in GT Cup Open in a GT4 AMG Mercedes, but they're in the Sports and New car for this weekend in GT3. Also in is car number 5. That's the Stanislav Jedlinski car. That's one of the two Olymp Racing cars. Of course, they run that team with a Mercedes and an Audi, so the Mercedes of that team is in. And Stanislav Jedlinski running on his own. Here is the change happening for the Sports and New squad. So it's going to be Guillaume Salas who will jump in. Marcelo Basso out of the car. As we say, Stanislav Jedlinski, it's a solo run for him. And the driver doing that is Giuseppe Cipriani in car number 8. He had a moment in the gravel earlier on, so he's trying to recover as best he can. Headlights ablaze for 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. Another top 6 are in at the moment. We've only had 4 pit callers so far. And look, you can see the cars are all over the place. They're trying to search for the remaining water on the circuit, because look at that, the circuit is substantially drier. I think Steelers found a little bit of moisture on the circuit on the inside, but it has to be dry tyres when they come in. It can't be anything else than in the intermediates or wet, or even wet. It's 2 dry for wets. Intermediates, I think we found that crossover point. I think it is going to be 2 dry for intermediates even. Dry tyres, I'm sure, has to be the way. Now, with the leaders, that was about 2.2 the last time I saw it. It's now down to less than a second. So, Giacomo Altoi's found some pace. Into the pit lane comes Valentin Pierberg, which we're on board with now. He will hand over that car to Tom Onslow Cole, and that car is coming in 15th place. So, watch out for that car to try and make its way into the top 10. In he goes. So, the SPS Automotive squad will get to work, hits his marks. Pierberg will jump out. Onslow Cole jumps in. There he is with the black and yellow helmet. Former British touring car star turned GT racer. No one else appears to be in pit lane at the moment. They're the only ones that came in this lap. Meanwhile, here's the scrap for the lead. And Fabian Schiller's 4+ second lead has come to nothing as Giacomo Altori dives around him on the braking zone into Lakaisha hairpin. That was a small sneak up the inside, but he's not far enough alongside to make that move stick. And Schiller now coming under pressure in what is increasingly dry conditions. So he's got the headlights flashing. That'll be on the back of Franck Pereira in the number 90 car that's just come out of the pit lane. And he can't afford it to be in the way. Neither can Giacomo Altoe. They both slip past him by the looks of things. Franck Pereira stays well out of the way. Oh, but that won't help Giacomo Altoe. Franck Pereira's trying to race him into the complex. He's got a car in between them now. And Giacomo will be thinking, what on earth are you doing, Franck? Get out of the way. But it's not going to work. He's going to go into the pit lane, actually. So, this is interesting. So, Schiller is in the row. That's a spin there for the Olymp Racing Audi. They've had more problems after they went off into the gravel earlier on. That won't help the underside either, bouncing over the curb. But crucially, into the pit lane come the championship leaders, second in the race. I think they might try and do this to get some clear air for Albert Costa to try and pump in some quick laps before Fabian Schiller comes in. So up to its mark, stops the M1 Lamborghini. Immediately, Altoe jumps out, Albert Costa jumps in. How much would he love to win at his home race here in Barcelona? Pit stops happen in earnest. They're around the outside, or possibly even struggling. Is that a Lamborghini? I think it's probably off the pace. I think that was the Franck Pereira car, I think. There is Tom Onslow Cole. And Tom is currently, he's about a lap down. I think the car that's just behind him there was the Fabrizio Crestani Mercedes. It is. There's your race leader, Fabian Schiller. It's only 8.25 minutes. Time penalty as Najim Razak goes around the outside of Richard Gonda. That's a 5-second time penalty for the current race leaders to be added to the race time for their starting procedure. Now, is it them jumping too early, I wonder? Or were they maybe slightly in, or what? I don't know what happened in their first couple of maybe they were slightly ahead of somebody when they shouldn't have been, or started too early and passed somebody before they got to the green flags. Either way, race leaders have a 5-second time penalty. It'll probably show up on screen in a second. But that's what's on my timing screen right here. So the race leaders have got, basically, if they're going to try and win this race, they've got to pull out a gap of more than 5 seconds. That will be down to the task of Denis Remenyenko if he gets out ahead of Albert Costa. So that car's still in the pit lane, or at least on its way out now. The Olymp Racing Audi is in the pit lane again, and they're looking over that car as well as changing the tyres. They're taking a bit of a leisurely time with that, as team manager of Car 59, which is the Martin Kodrich McLaren, has been told to report to race control immediately. For what, we're not sure. As again, we see Fran Rueda and Norbert Siedler battling away. That's the driver change happening. We've got Maciej Lesowski taking over from the Olymp Racing Audi with Marcin Jedlinski jumping out of that car. Here's the scrap still going on for 3rd, 4th and 5th positions. And again, they're just searching for whatever water's left on the circuit. It has to be dry tyres this time by. Lap time-wise, they haven't pitted yet. They're on 2-minute 4s. That can only tell me one thing, is that Alain Cordair must be on slick tyres, and therefore it must be time to change over. But I think what's happening is these guys are trying to stay out as long as they can to try and extend their stints. So when they come in, they've got fresher tyres on those dry tyres for as short a time as possible. It means they've got basically a good amount of time on fresh tyres, and they can try and take advantage of that against some of the earlier pit calls. But for me, if I was calling a strategy, I would jump in now and get slick tyres, because if you're staying out there on warm wets, you lose more time. If you're lapping slower than cars that are way further down the order in some 18th place, that's got to be the time to change over to slick tyres. I'm not a strategist, but that makes sense to me anyway. So Giuseppe Cipriani in the pit lane for the number 8 Antonelli Mercedes. Also in is the beautiful chrome gold Boots and Guignon Lamborghini. That's Pierre Faglioni jumping in ahead of that's Claude Gosselin instead. And look at them, they're struggling for grip on these tyres as Faglioni jumps in ahead of Claude Gosselin. I think that car must have had an off yesterday in practice, because it's not a completely all gold car. The door and the fender of that car are almost kind of like a matte black, almost unliveried parts on those cars. Obviously that gold wrap doesn't extend in terms of any spare parts anyway. So back to the leaders, and they've only got 5 minutes to go until the pit window opens. So when that clock ticks over to 28 minutes, that'll be the end of it. Now, do any of these cars pit in? Doesn't look like it. So no, first, second, third and fourth and fifth have all carried on, so they're not going to come in. But there are crews ready with tyres out in the pit lane. At least 3 cars, crews of 3 cars are ready. So we should be getting, I think, at least a couple of pit callers this time by. Past the pits goes the Riccardo Agostini Mercedes. Also going past the pits as I look out the commentary box window go Martin Kodrich. And the car chasing him down, Thomas Tuchler. That's over 7th and 8th position. Into the pit lane comes Jiatong Liang. As we see now, once again, for some reason still with the windscreen wipers going, Fran Moreda, but there's no spray around it. It can't be causing him that much of a problem, even if it is still spray on his windscreen. So we need to look at the lap times really of Albert Costa, because his last lap was he's set the fastest first sector of anyone so far, 34.1, and it's quicker than the guys in front. So literally, he's the man to watch out for so far. Ultimately, I think that these guys staying out on these tyres, they're harming their chances of even getting a race win or even a podium, because the longer they stay out, unless they're trying to have a shorter stint as possible on the slick tyres so they're fresher towards the end, that's the only thing I can think of really. Raffaele Giammaria jumps in to the Raton Racing Lamborghini. Also in the pit lane is driver changes. Richard Gonda's jumped out and bites 10th place in the race overall. Still here, the battle rages on between Fran Moreda and Norbert Siedler over 4th place. Now, this time by, there goes Albert Costa. He's effectively, you could say almost a full lap behind these guys. He's gone past the pits. Albert Costa's put in a 2 minutes 1.975. If that's not a sign for slick tyres for the front runners, I don't know what is really. So leaders coming into the final couple of the corners. Are any of them going to dive in? Surely they have to. 3 minutes to go. Schiller carries on though. This is not going to work if he wants to win the race. Second, third and fourth. What about them? Crestani, Turner. Crestani's in. Turner stays out though. So Fabrizio Crestani jumps in. He'll hand over to Miguel Ramos. Also in is Norbert Siedler. So not heeding the call just yet for pit stops are Fran Moreda and Darren Turner. Past goes Riccardo Agostini. Thomas Tuchler carries on. He's also got past during that sequence Martin Kodrich and pulled away substantially, so that's working out for him so far. Ezequiel Perez Companc is in, so he will hand over to, that will be him handing over to Eliseo Martinez when he finishes. Into the pit lane he comes in car number 12. So as it stands right now then, Fabian Schiller leads the way by 8.5 seconds with Darren Turner in second place. We're on board with the Lazarus Racing Lamborghini. Ezequiel Perez Companc peels into his pit stop box and Martinez will jump in instead. So Fabian Schiller leads the way by 8.5 seconds from Darren Turner in second place. Fran Moreda has third. Riccardo Agostini currently sits in 4th position. 5th place now for Thomas Tuchler. Martin Kodrich in 6th. Miguel Ramos 7th. Miguel Grenier in 8th now. Eliseo Martinez, who will jump in, came in 9th position. And Federico Leo has already taken over. He's in the pit lane now, but taking over from Najim Razak, with Indy Donche also in the car from Russell Ward as well. I've got Elliot Wood alongside me here as well, but obviously watching all of this. A USB means design with some of these front runners like Fabian Schiller, Darren Turner, etc., who aren't in for tyres yet when it's clearly bone dry. And if they want to try and get themselves a good result here, look at the time left now. They have to come in now, otherwise they'll be past their pit stop window. And of course, I think they're possibly coming in way too late.
Yeah, it does seem slightly odd. Obviously, all the days of running we've had previously here were in the dry. And you wonder how much of their tyre allocation they may have gone through previously, and of the tyres they do have still to use, if they've already put several, possibly hundreds of kilometres on them already.
So there is the car which effectively, I think, as he goes through the shot there, should effectively be coming through, I think, in the end, as the race leader. There is his teammate now, Michael Grenier. Into the pit lane now finally comes Fabian Schiller, as he had to, otherwise he would have had a penalty. Although, interestingly enough, now Darren Turner stayed out. That's not good, because effectively he's missed the pit window in many cases, so he'll come in. There's only 35 seconds left. So, unless I'm being stupid about this, I think he's going to get a penalty, because effectively he hasn't come in during the pit window, so that's possibly miscommunication by Optimum Motorsport. He's missed the pit entrance all entirely, and when he comes in, he'll have missed it all entirely, but it'll go to zero in about 18 seconds or so. So in the pit lane, who have heeded that pit call, are the Get Speed Mercedes team. Denis Romanenko is into that car now, and he's taking over from Fabian Schiller. Andres Saravia is taking over from Fran Rueda, but I think the headline is, whatever happens, Darren Turner, I think they're on course for a penalty, unfortunately.
Yeah, what I think they might have done actually is looked at the track map and saw where possibly the traffic was and thought, oh, keep him out another lap just in case we can avoid this traffic, not realising the countdown clock has ended and the drivers should have all been changed by now.
So these are the two cars we need to watch for, one of them at least. This is the Norbert Siedler Emil Frey Lamborghini. His teammate is already coming out of Bank Sabadell into the chicane. The driver change window has finished, so as we say. Darren Turner's still out there, but he's the only one yet that hasn't made a pit stop. On the timing screen, on the little column which says how many pit stops they've made, he's the only one which hasn't got a 1 next to it. Now Fabian Schiller comes out, and Denis Romanenko does, and interestingly enough, look at this, they are way in the lead, look at that. So maybe I was wrong, maybe staying out was the right thing to do, because Denis Romanenko comes out of the pit lane, and the leaders already just come out the final corners of the pit straight. So that's something that's interesting. What's interesting now is, though, Miguel Ramos, who pitted just before these guys, has gone through, and he now leads the way. So it's now Mercedes 1-2. Miguel Ramos for SPS Automotive ahead of Get Speed Performance. And interestingly enough, that is crucial too, because that is Albert Costa getting past Andres Saravia. That's for on-track position. That will be now for third position, because obviously Darren Turner, I think, he's going to get a penalty anyway, so it should be now. Miguel Ramos is effectively the race leader now. Denis Romanenko is now in second place, and somehow Loris Spinelli is up to third now. He's made a great run in that sequence. Darren Turner does come in, but I'm sorry, Darren and Optimum, you're too late, unfortunately. You will come in, but you're going to get a penalty for it. 70 seconds to handicap, but it's not going to matter too much in terms of the handicap they'll get later on from the stewards.
And had they done it a lap earlier, considering how early in the pit lane Optimum is, they could have got their driver change done literally the second it ended. So
lessons learned for race 2, I think,
yeah,
if you get a similar situation. This is a replay here of how Albert Costa got around the outside of a little sideways. I think he caught almost Andres Saravia off guard there. He's got into the corner, went to get the power, and realised, oh, look, there's a Lamborghini on my left-hand side. Had to back out of it. So there is effectively now the race leader, because I'm more than confident there's going to be a penalty for the Optimum Motorsport cars, given the fact they came in when the pit window was closed. So Ramos is effectively your race leader right now. Romanenko in the Get Speed Mercedes is second place. Spinelli is third. So it is effectively now Mercedes 1, 2, 3. Then the championship leaders Costa and Altoe in fourth. Andres Saravia is fifth. Enrique Chavez is sixth. Michael Grenier will be seventh. Adam Cordair will be up to eighth. That's a good run from them so far. Rafael Gianmaria in the Raton Racing Lamborghini ninth. And Frederick Schandorf in the Vincenzo Suspiria Lamborghini should be in the top 10. The Aston Martin has already gone through down the pit lane, but also here comes the Mercedes down the pit straight. He should get it before he gets to the end of the straight, and he does indeed. So into the lead properly now goes Miguel Ramos. And remember, they haven't won a race so far this season, so touch wood, they could manage to get through. Meanwhile, Darren Turner, it just shows you what could have been, because they come out onto the road with, it says Darren Turner, it should be Ollie Wilkinson. They are now into second place, and it could have been second place had they got in time.
Yeah, and there is quite a big gap behind to the third place car. It's not this car that's being summoned to the stewards at the moment, though. It's car number 59, which is Henrique Chavez. We're seeing a replay of, I believe that is Henrique Chavez, making a move on Andres Saravia, and that might be the instant in question why they're being summoned to race control.
I'm not sure, really. As a passing its teammate. I have to say, though, that Aston Martin, Yeah, under investigation. I wonder what for, in many cases. But what's interesting is that as it came out of the pits, I think this is obviously Ollie Wilkinson at the wheel, that car doesn't look confident on the tyres it's got, whether it's just it can't get them up to speed, or whether they've, dare I say, fitted one of them wrong. That car doesn't look like it was handling right. Now, this is for position. Incredibly, up the inside goes, well, was going up as Albert Costa, but Loris Spinelli says, you might be the championship leader, but I'm not going to let you pass that easy. And he holds on to 4th position. And Costa's thinking, come on, Loris, get on with it. Otherwise, I've got Enrique going to try and get past me as well, who is, of course, under investigation.
And Enrique Chavez had set the fastest first sector of this race on only basically his first flying lap, essentially.
So it's not quite as simple a race so far for the Emerald Ferry Lamborghinis this time round. It was effectively domination in race 1 last time at Silverstone, but the changeable conditions has thrown their form in many cases out the window, because, as you see here,
it's actually Miguel Ramos who has just set the fastest lap. So he's extending his lead up front with now 14 seconds, with car number 96, Aston Martin, being penalised, we expect.
Yeah, in fact, it's tumbling down the timing screen now. In fact, either that, or has it just not come through the first sector?
I think it might be, yeah.
Our timing screen is showing that the car hasn't come through. It's gone through very slowly into the first sector, and it hasn't come through sector 2. Look at this. We'll look at that in a second. They're all bunching up at the end of the chicane we've got now.
I think that's the stationary Aston Martin I can see outside the commentary box.
It is. You're right.
At turn 9, I believe.
So that is, unfortunately, the Darren Turner cut off the road. There's the replay. And is that the wheels at the front left wheel? I thought it was a bit sort of wayward on there. The front left wheels come loose. So not just a penalty, but a pit stop that didn't fit the wheel on. So it just goes wrong and wrong further for the Optum car. That's unfortunately out of the race now. Whilst that was all going on, that was on screen, whilst we were concentrating on that, there was a big fracas going on, particularly with at the head of it still, the Loris Spinelli car's now up to 2nd place, because also was dropping back. The Denis Romanenko car was 2nd. It's down to 6th now in that sequence, so we'll try and catch you up on this one. So Spinelli's now 2nd place. It's Chavez into 3rd.
And Enrique Chavez has just made that move. There's a 6-way fight for 2nd place at the moment, but 17-second lead up front with only 22 minutes to go.
Yep. Watch this battle here now for what is now 2nd place. Enrique Chavez monstering the back of the Loris Spinelli car up the inside of not only Albert Costa goes. As there's contact, Enrique Chavez makes contact with Loris Spinelli. He's onto the grass. Can he get it stopped somewhere just about? Did just save him. He's off into the gravel track. Can he avoid the tyre barriers? No, he clips it on the exit. Now, is that going to damage the car enough? I'm not sure. There's yellow flags, but past goes everyone that was in that battle of a 6th position. We'll get a replay of that in a second to see exactly how that kicked off. We only saw the end of it when they kind of got side by side. I think possibly Chavez tried to get up the inside line. Spinelli closed the door, possibly put him 2 hours onto the slippery grass. Lost traction. He almost lost the back end, but it was a good save initially, I admit that, but just too hot. As a result of that, was carrying too much speed into the corner. That's what sent him off into the gravel.
Yeah, he couldn't go on the brakes while he was saving it, and at which point, when he did save it, he was then already at the corner where he needed to be turning, and then he just had to go off at that point.
So again, another sequence like it was in the early few laps when it was all over the place. Let's just take stock now. So Miguel Ramos and Fabrizio Crestani now lead. Here's the replay. Look, here we go. So Enrique Chavez goes up the inside. Ooh, now it almost looks to me initially as if Chavez maybe understeers and drives into him. It wasn't the case with Chavez closing the door. It was more like Chavez kind of understeered and drove into him in many cases. So he kind of caused his own demise in many cases. And that's Taylor Martin looking on, probably not that impressed in many cases. Now it's side by side down the pit straight. It's 3 abreast, in fact, look at this. So it's now going to be, that is Albert Costa, side by side with Denis Romanenko, and past the pair of them again goes Enrique Chavez. So incredibly, the car that's struggling on face at the moment is the championship leader. Albert Costa back down to what he has 6th position. There he is in car 63, and not as dominant as they were at Silverstone. This is pretty interesting.
And besides Chavez's middle sector, his other 2 sectors was the fastest of the race and the fastest of that lap of anyone.
What's interesting now is also the first sector for Miguel Ramos was a 33.7. Everyone behind him is going quicker. In fact, the fastest first sector of anyone else in the race went to Loris Spinelli, and then Andres Sarabia, and then Mikel Grenier briefly, I think, and then Enrique Chavez. So they're all going up quicker than the leader. The gap is 14 seconds. This is looking very interesting indeed in terms of pace. Everyone's all over the place at the moment.
And exactly 2 seconds faster at 2nd place is Loris Spinelli from Miguel Ramos. So if we say we can fit in another 10 laps potentially, that is pretty much exactly how he's going to come in to take the lead, I think.
This could be a pretty tasty conclusion to this race, I imagine. There's your standings in the races. Pro is, of course, led by Miguel Ramos. The Pro-Am category led by Denis Romanenko. The Am category is led by Giuseppe Cipriani, who is in 14th place overall. John Schuffner's Mercedes, who shares with Janine Hill, is 2nd. And the Pierre Ferlioni and Claudia Gosselin Boots and Ginion car is in 3rd place. Yellow flags down at turn 9. which I think is at the end of the back straight, isn't it? I think, if I'm correct.
And the number 33 Indy Donch car is just at the fastest lap at 1:55.899.
And this is it's purple sectors all over because at the moment Enrique Chavez is going for it now. He's set fastest first and middle sectors. As we see here, this is Albert Costa on the back of this car, Denis Remenyenko. These cars were battling for the lead just before they came in for their pit stops. But Albert Costa he's back in 7th now by the looks of things, because looks like, yeah, he's back in 7th because he's outside the top 6 now. In 7th place, the championship leaders I think they're struggling in these mixed conditions here. They're not as quick as they normally are in the dry, so as Enrique Chavez talk about flying, and a rather aghast Elliot Wood points out on the screen, he's done a 1:49.943. Enrique Chavez by far fastest man on track. What's interesting now is actually Miguel Ramos leads, but the cars behind are at least 5 seconds quicker at this point in time. There's the car in 2nd place, Laura Spinelli, who's been caught by Andres Saravia, who's been caught by Michael Grenier, who's been caught by Enrique Chavez. So we've got 2nd, 3rd and 4th coming together. They're coming up behind with number 4, Busangini on Lamborghini. 18.5 minutes to go. This could be a barnstorming finish to this race, incredibly.
Yeah, in one sector alone, Spinelli closed in by 2 seconds. What we're seeing here, though, is even with traffic, Chavez is the quickest car on track. So I imagine some of the other cars are going to get a little more tricky to drive when they're on amongst the others. And we're seeing Chavez 2 at once for position there. Incredible move.
That's one way to overtake somebody. Either side of the Busangini on car saying, please don't hit me. And then he went past either side of them, and the one that came out on top of that was indeed Michael Grenier. So he managed to get in front of Enrique Chavez. I think he was in front of him anyway, but Chavez tried to make the move but couldn't get it done. So out of the Caixa hairpin and into the Bank de Sabadell. I think it's fair to say it definitely is now fully dry tyre weather. Across the line goes the first few cars. Miguel Ramos, who'll come out the final few corners any second now. Where's he got to? He should be coming into the last corner any second now, I think. The gap is down to 6 seconds. It was about 18 at one point, so it's come down in like 2 laps. It's incredible. There goes Miguel Ramos. What's his lap time this time by? It is 1:57. He's picked it up a little bit, personal best. 2nd place for Laura Spinelli, 1:50.3, 50.8 for Saravia. Then it's 1:51 for Grenier, 51.2 for Chavez. And this is an onboard shot of Tom Onslow Cole battling away with Beitske Visser on the right-hand side of the BMW. Under brakes, what happens here then? Dives down the outside. That's the Olymp Racing car. That is Stanislav Jedlinski in the way. And there goes the Indy Donche car. We said he was flying along. He goes past one, and that's something like Michael Grenier did on the exit of the chicane. Went past 2 cars in one move. He's got past at least Tom Onslow Cole. And we're chasing after Beitske Visser in a second.
And next sector's just come through. Spinelli is now only 1.8 seconds on our leader, Miguel Ramos. Chavez is the fastest in the first sector again, and the fastest through the speed trap. We're going to see if we can see our front 2 cars now, because they must be nose to tail at the moment.
Well, they'll be coming out of turn 8 on the sprint down towards turn 9 very shortly, I'd imagine. Here's the scrap that's going on for 4th and 5th places, Michael Grenier and Enrique Chavez. And they're just coming out of turn 8 now towards turn 9. And here they come in side by side. This is for the lead up into Campsel Corner up the inside. It goes 1st and 2nd place. And Miguel Ramos, for some reason, has lost all his pace because past him now into the lead goes Laura Spinelli. But for how long? Because here comes Andres Saravia and one of the McLaren's diving up the inside. Spinelli blocks to the inside line. No, you don't, Mikel. Into the complex he goes. And Andres Saravia trying to get past it for the lead. So Laura Spinelli leads the way. I think it's arguably their best performance of the season so far, Fantasy Motorsport, within reason. They're not normally the fastest guys out there, but taking advantage of the conditions, and it is effective what we see in the Mercedes circuit, where they tend to go pretty well. But the McLarens are also on form here as well. 2nd and 4th at this point, 2nd and 5th. Oh, there's contact. That's Miguel Grenier. Gets tagged by Enrique Chavez. Round goes the Lamborghini. That was a bit clumsy, wasn't it?
Very clumsy. And Teo Martin run for a good result prior to that. I imagine that will come under investigation.
Yeah, I think we're about to see car 59 under investigation for the contact with car 14, I think. I think Michael Grenier won't be happy with that. This is the move for the lead and 2nd place. Miguel Ramos just didn't even fight it. Something's pace-wise is not right with that car because he's fell back. This is the move, or say the incident, I should say, with Enrique Chavez. And he tries to go make a dive up the inside, tries to get the car stopped. He does try to turn in, but that was, again, as you say, rather clumsy. And off stage right goes Michael Grenier as the fight for the lead still goes on between Laura Spinelli, who is trying to hold back the tide of this attack from Andres Saravia. So the McLarens right now appear to have the ultimate pace. The Teo Martin car is very suited to their home circuit here in Barcelona, the team at least. And Saravia wasn't all that keen through Sayat corner there, but you might try and get him back to the next couple of corners. And you can see now it definitely is brightening up much more as the afternoon starts to get on. So an intriguing race so far, and there's still less than 15 minutes to go, so there's still plenty that can happen in what's been a very up and down, topsy-turvy race. Into the pit lanes comes Tom Onslow-Cole for possibly some kind of a problem, I'm going to guess, but unless he's got another reason to come in, I'm not sure. But
And looking at the lap times in the leading Pro-Am cars, it's the cars behind Bajska-Visser and Indy Donch. And Indy Donch has just overtaken Bajska-Visser with 10th place. They are currently the fastest on track. They were set in 1 minute 51s, and the cars in front are set in 1 minute 56 and 1 minute 58. So they could possibly get past Ramos by the end of this race.
yeah, they could get as high as possibly 4th or 5th position, because the cars in front of them, up to Michael Grenier, who was in 4th position, were doing as much as 1:55, so they're lapping at least 4 seconds quicker. So this is a real fascinating situation we've got here. We've got cars at the front that are lapping quite fast in the 50s and 51s. You've got cars from 4th downwards that are kind of lapping 4 or 5 seconds slower. Then cars just outside the top 10 that are lapping as quick as the leaders in many cases. It's a great back and forth battle. New fastest lap of the race goes to Loris Spinelli, and Sarabia was only a 10th slower as the sun starts to beat down here now at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Into turn 1 they go. Wipers still going on these cars for some reason, but Loris Spinelli, fastest lap of the race, 1:49.672. And it's great to see that it's not just there by chance, it's great strategy, but also the pace on these tyres on this circuit for the Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes, it's genuine pace. It's not just simply just luck, it's genuine pace for Loris Spinelli. They are genuinely, with 13.5 minutes to go, a factor for the race victory this afternoon.
So what's the Antonelli team getting out of these tyres that the Miguel Ramos car currently isn't? Because it's 7 seconds slower on that last lap.
Unless maybe their car is possibly more set up, I'm guessing maybe for wet conditions compared to dry conditions, where some of these cars were a bit more of a balanced setup, whereas the Ramos car maybe was a bit more fully wet.
And Indy Donch has just set another fastest lap at 1 minute 49.599. He's 10 seconds behind Albert Costa, but closed in by 7 seconds on that last lap as well. So it's going to get very close at the end there.
We're in a situation where literally whoever can win this race is a complete lottery, because you've got cars up and down the order, some who are ahead of cars lapping faster that are lapping slower, obviously. There's Tom Onslow-Cole's just come out of the pits for whatever reason he came in. Lost Spinelli flashing the headlights furiously, trying to get him out of the way. Andres Sarabia keeping calm and just staying behind and looking for an opportunity here as they come up through Bank de Sabadell. Lights ablaze as they turn up through the right-hander. And now on towards the chicane. I think it's fully dry now. It's looking like typical Barcelona sunny conditions now, like it was yesterday for free practice as they come into the complex. Tom Onslow-Cole needs to be getting out of the way here, otherwise Loris Spinelli's going to get held up by the number 20, Carl Andres Sarabia will be in the mix here. He needs to get past him on the straight, but the straight line going out of that Mercedes, it's not making it easy for him, and really should be obeying the blue flags in many cases. He's got the headlights flashing, saying, come on, Tom, you're behind us by a lap. You need to move out of the way. Meanwhile, Enrique Chavez behind in 3rd place. He's turned it up, 1:47.418. So it looks as though now it's getting warmer out there. The track is drying more rapidly, and lap times are absolutely tumbling down here as Spinelli gets frustrated behind this lap Tom Onslow-Cole, who he can't seem to find a way around.
And at the rate they're getting quicker as well, what could possibly be is that extra time gained means we might have another lap added to the race, given how quick they are, which may change the whole dynamic entirely again.
By contrast, quite seriously, Albert Costa's last lap, 1:56.0, and that was a personal best. So the championship leaders not having a great first race here, really. I guess maybe their setup was a bit off. Enrique Chavez, by the way, has set another new fastest first sector. They're making their way through traffic. But this is frustrating. Loris Spinelli must be thinking, why are you racing me, Tom Onslow-Cole? You need to respect the blue flags. You need to let me through. But unfortunately, for some reason, either he's just trying to get on pace and is lapping as quick as the leaders, or simply, he just can't see the blue flags.
And Indy Donch is right on the rear of Albert Costa now for 8th place overall. And that would be for, well, it's the 3rd place Pro-Am car as well, Indy Donch. So could be ended up taking the Pro-Am win here today as well.
Certainly could do. He's got to get past both Denis Ramanenko. He's passed Albert Costa. He's done it now. So past Albert Costa into 8th position. The championship leader's down to 9th now, incredibly. Bajska-Visser is the next car to come past, and she's lapping 5 seconds quicker than Albert Costa anyway. So again, there might be another car that went the wrong way on setup and possibly went more towards a wet setup more than a dry one. Looking back further back, there was another car going around the outside of one of the Mercedes, and looking ready in the background, that's Indy Donche. So that's Michael Grenier I was looking at, actually. He's got past one of the lapped cars there, but it's quite a large gap behind them. Down the pit straight, Loris Spinelli, I'm sure, will be flashing the headlights even more. Just asking Tom Onslow-Cole to move out of the way, because, yeah, he's flashing the headlights again. That must be really frustrating for a race leader, whether you've got a back marker who seems to be lapping as quick as them. There we go on the message. Car 20 must respect blue flags. Basically, that's a signal from the race control saying, Tom, you need to move out of the way because the top 2 in the race are behind you. Regardless of pace, you have to let them through. But at the moment, you just can't see them. There must be communications on the radio saying that there's blue flags out there. he can't not be seeing the blue flags in many cases, can he?
And you do wonder how much this is helping the cars further behind as well, who perhaps couldn't have matched the Spinelli and Saravia pace up front, but are now being brought closer into that battle.
Because what's interesting, actually, looking at the lap times, maybe Thomas Leclerc's argument might be, well, I can't help that I'm lapping the same pace as the leaders, because his last lap was his personal best of 1:48.5. He's on the same pace as the leaders. So in many cases, I guess he can't really help his pace, but at the same time...
Well, he's faster than the leaders.
He's faster than them, but at the same time, so really it's a case of he's got to put his foot down and pull away and pull the gap so he's not in the front of the leaders, or he has to let them through. Otherwise, he's just ignoring the blue flags. Again, they get another signal now. Car 20 must respect the blue flags. It's on the timing screen. Now, SPS have got to say to Tom, you've got to let these guys through, but he might be saying on the radio, well, I can't help that I'm as fast as them. Spinelli tries to make a dive up the outside, but it's all he's going to do is make him a mistake. He's gone deep into the hairpin out of frustration and through into Bolide goes Andres Saravia. Now, Loris will have a big issue with that, with the fact that he was trying to get past Tom Onslow Cole. That's a bit dubious as Spinelli goes back up the inside to try and make it back through into the lead, but he can't do it just yet. So Andres Saravia goes into the lead here at Barcelona.
And Onslow Cole had actually set the fastest middle section of the race during that. So he does have a very fair argument, and his team manager is now being sent to race control.
There we go, and I think Loris will have some choice words, I think. I won't exactly repeat what they might be, but he might have some very choice words for Tom Onslow Cole afterwards, because that sort of pace that he was setting seems to have effectively cost him the lead. And now it's Andres Sarabia's turn to try and shafter. But look behind them, because in third place now, here comes the second of the Teo Martin Motorsport cars. Or I should say, here comes the cavalry for Teo Martin, because they're just behind. Here's the replay. I think Spinelli was just getting frustrated behind Tom Onslow Cole, brake too deep, and as a result of that, straight through into the lead goes Andres Saravia. And I'm sure he'll have a big case that effectively the reason why he lost the lead was that car 20 didn't respect the blue flags and allow them both through. But again, Tom Onslow Cole's argument will be, well, I can't help my pace. If I'm as quick as the leaders, I can't just slow down and then, because he'll be on the back of them, but straight away if he's going that quick. So he's in a bit of a catch-22. I can sympathise with him in that aspect, but at the same time, blue flags to blue flags, you've got to respect them.
Yeah, the fact that the second Teo Martin car as well was improving. He was kind of upping the pace for the leaders at the same time. He was showing them how quick they could go. It's now 1.88 seconds covering our top three. The Indy Donche car is almost closing in on the Demis Remaniaco for 7th place and second in the Pro-Am class. And there'd be a further 14 seconds to the leading car in the Pro-Am class, but there's only 7 minutes to go. Not sure if we could do that, but once again, anyone could win this race still.
I think you're not wrong, I definitely could. So Andres Saravia leads now with 7 minutes to go, but if someone finds a bit more pace, it could well be, if Spinelli comes back to haunt him in the next 7 minutes, it could be a possibility he could get through.
The fact that Saravia spent most of that last lap stuck behind two cars, but still managed to set his personal best, does bring kind of, it was a move made out of frustration by Spinelli.
Oh, and there's another one there. That's the, that's close. That was the Giuseppe Cipriani cars getting involved. That could have held him up enough to give Spinelli the chance to get through. Here he comes. It's payback on the back markers there for Andres Saravia. Here comes Laura Spinelli. This could be the chance he gets to come back through again. Enrique Chavez is watched on in third position, but down the pit straight towards turn one. Spinelli just pops out to have a look, but he slots back in behind him. But it's brought the Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes right onto the back of the Teo Martin McLaren once again. So maybe Saravia's not away and dry just yet. Spinelli's on the prowl in second place and looking for the victory with 6.25 minutes to go.
And Tom Onslow Cole has set another fastest middle sector of the race for anyone.
Well, whether he's getting one, he's still getting the message on the screen. He's got to respect the blue flags. But again, you'd be thinking, well, I can't help my pace. If I'm lapping quicker than my leaders, it's not my fault when they're lapping slower than me.
In fact, yeah, only one car was faster than Tom Onslow Cole in that last lap. That was Laura Spinelli, only by 0.023 seconds.
Yeah, I know we keep talking about it, but my point is, I see both sides of the argument. I see why he's got to respect the blue flags, but at the same time, I can see where he's arguing in terms of his pace in these dry conditions. I get that, and I see where it's coming from. End of the day, though, rules are rules, and he has to respect the blue flag. So there's a reason why he's been
Onslow Cole
through.
Isn't fighting for position at the moment. He's got nothing to lose if he does let drivers pass right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, effectively, in many cases, arguably, I think he kind of, yeah, well, he's a lap ahead of the Giuseppe Cipriani car anyway. So, in fact, actually, no, I think he is actually fighting for this, because the Giuseppe Cipriani car, which is the car behind these three cars here, that's the car they've just lapped at the chicane a couple of moments ago. So that's a battle for 14th and 15th place, but they're in different classes anyway.
And 12 seconds faster on that last lap than the Cipriani car.
So into the complex at the final chicane goes Andres Saravia. He's got more traffic in front. One of them is the Boots and Guinea on Lamborghini. And What's the other one? He's getting held up in the last corner. It's not going to help him on the run through onto the pit straight. More penalties coming into play. He's always three abreast. This contact. He tries to go through the middle. Piece of bodywork goes flying in the mix of it. Boots and Ginian was effectively dawdling on the exit at the final corner. And again down the pit straight. Here comes Enrique Chavez past the lapped car. Look at this. Top three in the race with 4.5 minutes to go on nose to tail into turn one. So Loris Spinelli is the meat in a Teo Martin McLaren sandwich. They turn up through the left hand, up through turns 1 and 2 into turn 3. And Loris Spinelli now has got to keep one eye in front and behind. Here's the replay. Look, the pair just closed in front of him and left Spinelli nowhere to go. I think he went to go for a gap that eventually ended up closing in on him. There's the replay. And I think arguably the Boots and Ginian car couldn't really go much more to the left if he tried, because he was off the racing line anyway. Both cars were trying to get back
and
past
Indy
through.
Donche has just dived down the inside of Miguel Ramos at the chicane. So Indy Donche is into 7th place overall now, and he is closing in on the top 2 in class. We're going to see a two-way fight for the win again, but there are cars further behind that are going even faster.
Yeah, basically what Michael Grenier needs to do now is get himself within a 10-second gap in the next 3.5 minutes. If he can, he'll steal 3rd place. If not, it'll still be 3rd place for Enrique Chavez and Martin Kodrich. So past another back mark. I think that was possibly the Frank Pereira car I think they got past. I think it might have been. It may have been either that. No, so it might have been... It was one of the Raton Racing Lamborghinis that just got past. It might be Rafa Gia Maria they got past. So Rafa Gia Maria's got through. But I think what's incredible is actually Thomas Leclerc's getting past these guys first, and then Glean's going past. Thomas Leclerc now is up another spot. He's now up into 5th in Pro-Am. His next target is Alam Coder, but he's some 17 seconds up the road now, so he's trying to close him up. What's the last lap? His last lap was actually 8 seconds quicker.
But Coder will also be having to let cars pass using the blue flags, and Thomas Leclerc, ignoring these rules, is passing many of them.
It is, but we'll have to wait and see if anything happens in the steward's office afterwards. Meanwhile, Andres Sarabia, despite that very risky contact with the back marker, now has a bit of breathing space in the lead here. And how much great would it be for Teo Martin, effectively at their home race, to pick up just a victory? It's not going to be a 1-2, sadly, but it will be at least a 1st and 3rd place, 2 cars on the podium. There's the confirmation of the time penalty on screen, car 59, which is Enrique Chavez and Martin Kodrich. We'll get the 10 seconds for causing the collision. That was with Michael Grenier up at the chicane, as Elliot pointed out. So we now just wait now for...
And Indy Donche should be making another move now, I believe, for 2nd in class on Dennis Remnenko in the number 13 car. He's actually right behind, going across the start-finish. They're separated by 0.378 seconds, so they should be heading to turn 1 now. We can't quite see who's in the lead of that battle.
Well, by the time they get to the end of the first sector, we'll know they've changed, because they'll swap the order on the timing screen. But down towards the Lakaisha hairpin for what should be the second to last time. Now, Spinelli's not giving up. He's still there. He's still got the windscreen wipers on for some reason, but they turn their way out of Lakaisha into Bank de Sabadell and still keeps going. Now, this is the reason why for the contact. Once again, up the inside into the chicane. He tries to turn in, but bang, there it is. And round goes Michael Grenier, who again might have some choice words for that move as well. But into the chicane for the second to last time. They're about to start the last lap here in Barcelona in conditions that are variably much different than they were at the start of the race. There's a piece of bodywork from that contact earlier on. Spinelli does avoid it, as does Andres Sarabia. The gap between the top 2 as they go on to the final lap is 1 second. Thomas Leclerc still in front of them, but nevertheless, up towards turn 1 they go. And Andres Sarabia trying to take his and Fran Raiders' 3rd win of the season.
And Alonso Cole could take 5th in class. He's 5 seconds behind, and he is lapping 8 seconds faster per lap at the moment than Alan Coder, who's in 12th place overall. Looking at the Indy Donch car, he still hasn't got past Dennis Romaniaco, who's kind of responded by setting his personal best sectors.
What's also interesting is actually our championship leaders, this is actually going to be, or the races they've finished, their worst result, because they're actually back in 11th place. And the worst result they've had all season was 5th, both at the Red Bull Ring and at Hockenheim. Apart from that, they've had 4 wins this season.
Oh, and it looks like Dennis Romaniaco and Indy Donche made contact at 10:14, which would be the chicane, because they're both under investigation at the moment.
But there goes Indy Donche. They're going past each other. Indy Donche has got through on Denis Remyenko as the leaders put a lap on another one of the Mercedes in the mix. And Loris Spinelli's on the back of Andres Sarabia now. There's Thomas Leclerc. I'm not sure if that's him now, just in the middle of passing with Adam Coder. Into the back straight into Lakaisha here for the final time. And Spinelli's close. Only a few more corners to go here, but Spinelli might have one final attack into the last couple of corners. And yeah, Thomas Leclerc has got past Alan Coder. He's up into 5th place. And that McLaren, he's got to get out of the way, otherwise he might cost his teammate a victory here. He's got to get out of the way. And I think he does. He bets the blue flags. That's got to be very careful. That's not going to work. It's going to be 3 abreast and almost cost a victory. And the other McLaren almost gets into the way. Round the outside goes Spinelli on the inside line. Chicane. They make contact over the chicane. Spinelli's through. If that'll stand or not, I'm not sure. But into the final corner on the last lap of the race. It could be a victory. In fact, it will be a victory on the road at least for Loris Spinelli and Antonelli Motorsport. Up to the checkered flag. And the number 6 Mercedes wins the first race of the weekend. Unbelievable. The victory changes on the last lap of the race at the last corners. And Teo Martin Motorsport are thinking, what on earth went on there? And incredibly, and rather embarrassingly, the car that possibly cost them the win was one of their teammates. Unbelievably.
And I believe that happened at Silverstone as well. We had the 2 Teo Martin cars kind of getting in the way of each other. We've still got the Pro-Am class leaders to come through.
Well, there's the move over the curb. Now, whether or not Spinelli will argue that he was basically sort of kept wide, this is the view from Alan Cadet thinking, oh no, what have I just done? But possibly.
It could come down to a track limits issue as well, because there's a very large curb there which you shouldn't drive over, and he definitely drove over it.
That was in the back of my mind when I said it was possible provisionally he took the victory, but what a race and what a final lap and a final couple of corners. So that is on the road a victory for Riccardo Agostini and Loris Spinelli. That is arguably by far their best result in International GT Open, I think, in their entire time they've been in this championship. Astonishing. And that was on genuine pace, and they've got to be delighted with that, as it should be. Now, there you go. It's under investigation. Loris Spinelli owns Saravi is under investigation, so it may well change again, given the fact he did have to go quite a lot over the curb. Then again, he might argue that Andres Saravi didn't really give him that much room because he was far enough alongside. But into that second part of the chicane, he might argue that Saravia had forced him over the curb in many cases. He might argue that, but at the same time, Saravia will say, well, look, he gained the advantage by going over the curb. So there's an argument in both cases there. I can see both sides of the argument. Yeah,
you're changing direction twice very quickly. And is that small bit in between considered a straight? Or is it immediately straight into the next corner?
Well, it's turns 14 and 15. So 15 is the second part of that chicane. They're both in a separate corner, so we'll have to wait and see what they do on that one. I think at the very least, in the moment at least, it's going to be celebrations of Antonelli Motorsport. You saw them going crazy on the pit wall. And
in our Pro-Am class as well, we're seeing a replay of the battle, and that second Teo Martin car definitely got in the way there. And it looks like, the Mercedes got good drive to then take the outside line around the McLaren, and they go side by side. That's through turn 14, so that's not under investigation. This bit's under investigation.
And you can see he's more than halfway alongside going into that second part of the chicane. So really, if you're going to give racing room, realistically, Saravia, looking at that visibly, maybe should have given a little bit more room. But again, you're fighting for a win, not just going to open the door for somebody at the final chicane. You're going to try and hold on to the place as best you can. So, you know, and it's a tricky one.
As Spinelli crossed the chicane, was his steering wheel very to the right, or was it first straight? There's a lot of celebrations. They're happy. They think they've won.
And rightfully said, look at that. They embrace as one. That, of course, was Riccardo Agostini and Loris Spinelli. And I think they've worked long and hard for that one. Whether or not it stands that, I'm not sure. Is that that's either Andres Saravia or Enrique Chavez, who does hold on to third. Despite the penalty, he does still hold on to third place because he was more than 10 seconds ahead of Michael Grenier. So Michael Grenier gets fourth. Frederick Schandorf, as you were saying, wins the Pro-Am category with Indy Donche in second place.
But we're still waiting to find out if Indy Donche has got second place, because he is also under investigation for a clash with Dennis Romanenko.
I think one thing we can confirm is that Giuseppe Cipriani won the AM class. He finished down in 15th overall, but he won that convincingly from John Schuffner and Janine Hill, and then Pierre Felioni and Claude Gosselin in the Boots and Guignon car in third position. But we had mixed weather, championship contenders out of position. This race had everything, and of course we started in gloomy, overcast, grey skies and rainy conditions. We finish it in bright sunshine. Here's the top three then. So third place goes to Martin Kodrich and Enrique Chavez in the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren, also taking third in the Pro class. Second place with the change on the last lap is Fran Moreda and Andres Saravi for Teo Martin Motorsport. It may be decided in the steward's office either way, but at least on the road in celebration for their first ever victory, I believe, in International GT Open, it is Riccardo Agostini and Loris Spinelli with an incredible last lap move to take the lead on the last couple of corners. They win for Mercedes and Antonelli Motorsport, and we're in the pit
What
lane.
a fantastic race. Riccardo Agostini, Loris Spinelli. Really a lot of emotions in this race. Let's start with the second driver, the driver doing the second stint, I mean, because the end was really amazing.
Yeah, what a race. Today was very difficult, but only for the condition. We did a fantastic pit stop. Also, we proved they changed the tire in slick. And I don't know, last lap, last corner was a magazine. Thank you, Marco Antonelli, Ricky, because he did a very good stint in hard, difficult moment. And I don't have words. Thank you.
And Ricky, Barcelona brings you good in GT Open. You won here last year, and good fight also in the first part of the race.
Yeah, it's always cool to be back in GT Open Series. The competition is very high always. Today the race for us was just incredible with Loris. Just really crazy. For me, during the first stint, I tried to close the gap as much as possible, compare the top drivers. I gained some positions that put us on the games for the end of the race. So yeah, thank you. Thanks to the team. Thanks, Loris. Today was just mega.
Well done, guys. Complimenti. Podium.
So, after an exhausting 70 minutes of racing, this is the results as it stands right now. Agostini and Spinelli win on the last couple of the corners, just 0.6 per second ahead of Aredo and Sarabia in second place. Kodric and Chavez make it a double Teo Martin podium at home. Seidler and Grenier fourth for Emilfey Racing, fifth for Schandorf and Tugela, who win Pro-Am, sixth for Ward and Donche in the Mercedes, seventh for Visser and Gondor in the BMW, eighth for Remenyenko and Schiller, who led at one point in the Mercedes, then ninth for the Franck Pereira Lamborghini, 10th for Miguel Ramos. Crucially there, Costa and Altori, championship leaders, down in 11th place and struggling in the changeable conditions. Pierre Berg and Onslow Cole take 12th from Hahn and Coder, and the rest of the field going through. And of course, when we lost our one retirement, which was sadly Ollie Wilkerson and Darren Turner after they pitted late. So what does it do the championship? Well, he does this. He closed everything right back up again. It's now a 7-point gap between Albert Costa and Giacomo Altori and Enrique Chavez and Martin Kodric, because of course there was no score in that race for Albert Costa and Altori because they finished outside the top 10. So let's take a look at what was an incredible first race of the weekend. It started under wet conditions with a good start initially from the pole-sitting Mercedes as they headed down towards turn one. But that's when the fireworks began. Contact between Grenier and Darren Turner saw the Lamborghini spinning around. Several cars taken to the runoff area and chaos ensued after that. Then further around at turn four, it was a contact from Van Mareda and Thomas Tugela with the Vincenzo Spirit Lamborghini off the road. Further back, there was more passes going on in the field as Norbert Seidler dived up the inside of Richard Gonda as the BMW started to go backwards in the top 10 and further down the order. Then he got passed up the inside by Ezekiel Perez Companc into the Verth chicane, and that opened the door for both Jaiton Liang and also the charging Martin Kodric to all slip through as well. There was more battles going on as Kodric then passed Ezekiel Perez Companc around the outside on increasingly drying conditions. It was this point in time when they came for pit stops that drivers changed over from wet to dry tyres. There was a moment for Martin Kodric and Enrique Chavez. That car went straight off the road into the gravel trap. They were lucky to recover, but contact with the leading Mercedes as it went off into the gravel just glanced the wall and got back onto the road with work to do. The pass of the lead happened at Campsa Corner as both first and second place cars going through, Spinelli and Andres Sarabia went through. Then a penalty for this incident between Michael Grenier and Enrique Chavez saw the McLaren get 10 seconds. And then in the last couple of laps, it happened here. But behind Tom Onslow Cole at the Lacaisha hairpin, after he's being told to get out of the way for blue flags, he lost the lead. But incredibly, on the final lap in the last couple of corners, up the chicane as a result of the third Teo Martin car getting into the mix, it was a victory for Loris Spinelli and Riccardo Agostini in incredible fashion. Second place went to the Teo Martin McLaren of Sarabia and Fran Reda, and third place to Chavez and to Martin Kodric. So we'll be able to give you the podium. And first of all, in third place, after an astonishing race, third place on the podium goes to the Enrique Chavez, Martin Kodric car. Second place for their teammates, Fran Mareda and Andres Sarabia. But it looks as though it's going to be, for the moment at least, a very popular win for your race winners. Antonelli Motorsports, Loris Spinelli and Riccardo Agostini up to the top step of the podium. A gracious shake of hands either way. And so up at the top step, and have a national anthem with the winning team, Italy. national anthem rings out for effectively both of our race-winning drivers and the race-winning team. And they are pumped up on the top step of the podium. So the trophies will be handed out, first of all, to the men in third place. And that goes, of course, to our Teo Martin McLaren drivers. Despite the penalty, they held on for third place. That going to the combo of Enrique Chavez and Martin Kodrich. Second place, their teammates might feel a little bit aggrieved about losing them the victory at the end of the race, but that may change under investigation. Either way, at this time at least, it will be second place for these guys. Andres Saravia and Fran Moreda making it a double Teo Martin podium at their home circuit. And the top step of the podium and the winners' trophies go to our race winners, presented by Mathieu Bonadel, the head of motorsport of Michelin, and hands those first place trophies to a very delighted Riccardo Agostini and Laura Spinelli, your winners of race 1 of the weekend here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, in the 2019 International GT Open Championship. And the winning trophy for the winning team as well, Antelé Motorsport. If that win stands, they'll be celebrating all night long. That'll be a great occasion. So that's all the action from race 1 done and dusted here. For myself, Scott Woodwis, and Elliot here. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you more action tomorrow. Hopefully it'll be dry conditions before this here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you.